Hello. In this tutorial, I'm going to go over the use of the Excel spreadsheet that tabulates names of the students by gender, skill, and behavior. This is a new format that we're introducing this spring 2017. But before we get to the Excel spreadsheet that does all of the nice calculations and graphs for you, we need to go back to the Word document. So what I've created here is this Word document here, which is what you will use to actually code the use of names from the videotape. So when you watch the video, you will indicate the person's name, student's name, and whether or not that use of name was related to their behavior, their skill, performance, etc. So, for example, in the examples I've got down here, so one great shot would be a boy skill performance. So you would indicate this BSK. Paula, you need to step with opposition. That would be girl skill performance. Um, and then as far as behavior, we're only looking at the moment for positive behavior or corrective behavior. So Cheryl, I really like how you're listening to me today, would be girl behavior positive. Andrew, don't throw the equipment on the floor, you'll break it, would be boy behavior corrective. And then Amy, please stop interrupting me when I'm talking to the class, would be girl behavior corrective. So when you use this form here, you would type down the names and then you could circle, cross out, do whatever to indicate which category that name was assigned to. So I've already created something similar here. So if we look at this, go down here. So I created this form here with one, which is skill performance, Paula, girl skill performance, Cheryl, girl behavior positive, Andrew, boy behavior corrective, etc. So with all the names, I've assigned them to why I use those names. So we can get a better idea of not only who do we interact with, but why do we interact with them. And there might be nothing there, although you might find that you're interacting with boys differently than you're interacting with girls in terms of skill, positive behavior, or corrective behavior. So that's the reason for that. So the other thing we need to do here is to actually, after you complete this form, you need to determine individual student use names. So the form is created for at least 50 names, although you can go obviously further. What I'm saying here in this class here is that at the end of the class here, if you looked up at all of these names here, there are 20 individual names because I use Rusty's name several times and Nick's name several times. So when I go back and look at that, the total number of unique names stated in the class was 20. So you only used the names of 20 students in this class. Now I'm making up that this class is made out of 50 students to make the calculations a little bit easier. So therefore, with 50 students in the class, you didn't use the names of 30 students. So you'd enter that 20 plus 30 and 50. So when you do this in a spreadsheet, it'll actually come out and it'll give you the percentage. Now, just for the sake of simplicity, I've said that there are 25 girls in this class and there are 25 boys in this class. And when we go up here and we actually look at how many boys' names we used and how many girls' names we used individually for each boy or each girl, we called on 9 different girls and we called on 11 different boys. Okay. So you enter that stuff into the spreadsheet. Now, in addition to that, then The last part here is total of number of names used in class. This is how many times did the teacher use a name. So for instance, now for Rusty, even though I used his name 3 times, it's counted in the total. So here I used a name 25 different times. So down here, you would just put down total number of names used in class would be 25. Okay. Personal reflections, you can go into this on your reflection, depending on what the outcome of your analysis was and whether or not you saw some patterns to your use of names that you didn't expect to see it. Okay, so that's the stuff you're going to do first or watching the videotape. And then the next thing I'm going to do now is to enter this information into the spreadsheet. So I'm going to go here. So the way I do this, I'll center this thing over here. Okay, so it says here, and I'm going to change that to 1. And then I select this. Now it's boy skill. All right, so it's a little bit easier here. Then I go Paula. And then I select girl skill. And then I go down this for Cheryl. Girl behavior positive. And I go through all of Andrew. Boy behavior corrective. And Amy. If I click on that, girl behavior corrective. And if I go, so I'm going to complete finishing this video out here, and I'll get back to you when I'm done filling out all of this information. So you get the idea. You're just going to go through this and you're going to change this stuff. One thing you might have noticed is as I was going along here, once a term has been entered in there, even a name in that column, when it happens again, then it's kind of goes to a shortcut. So for instance here, if I go R, there's only Rusty, he does that stuff. Okay, Rusty, you're getting too much. Okay, so I'm done with that now. So the next thing I want to go to on the next sheet here is to go to the percentage of names stated here. If I go back to my Word document here, if I scroll down to here, it's this data here that I'm going to enter. So I'll bring it back on. So number of names stated in class, so there was 20. Number of names not stated in class, 30. Total number of students in class, there. Now you can see now that the numbers change because this is a spreadsheet. So you got calculations in there. So there's 25 girls, 25 boys, 9 girls name stated, 11 boys name stated, and then that's it. So you're now done with all the entering of all the data. So you entered the data in here, and you entered the data in here. Now the cool thing about this now is, if I make this a little bit bigger, is I can now go to, maybe get full screen. I can now go to this here, and it shows me the frequency of names by gender. So I used 16, I used boys' names 16 times and girls' names 9 times. Okay, because I used Rusty a few times and Nick a few times. As far as by skill or student behavior, my interaction here, I used slightly under half of it was skill-based. About a quarter of it was positive behavior, and about a quarter of it was corrective behavior. So, I mean, if there was a lot of corrective behavior here, that means you're correcting students for misbehaving, then that would be an issue. So, name use by gender and behavior. So, this is the same type of thing. So, this is interesting. I just did this randomly here. So, I'm using boys' names a lot for skill, but I'm hardly using girls' names for skill. I'm using boys' names not so much for positive behavior, but girls' names for positive behavior. And then boys' names I'm correcting more than I'm correcting girls, although there's only one difference. And then the last thing here is the number of names stated in the class. So here you could see that I only used 40% of the students' names in the class. Most of the students I didn't call upon. So using this type of data, you might find some interesting information. I said, but names by gender, okay, I'm calling on boys more than I'm calling on girls. That's not great. Although I only called on 11 boys and 9 girls. Those 11 boys, I called on some of those boys multiple times, and the girls usually one time. Again, for this, I'd be looking out for improving my positive behavior comments, maybe reducing my corrective behavior. And this one here is I need to definitely focus on providing more girls' skill feedback to increase that number, and maybe increase the positive behavior to boys, and to see if I can get the students to behave a little bit better by reducing this stuff here. And then 40% of the names in class, next time I teach, I'd probably want to get that up to 50 or more, maybe 60. Okay, so this is the names tally sheet here. It's a really cool little spreadsheet that we've now developed. So hopefully you can use this spreadsheet and you can create your reports. Okay, and we'll conclude there.